G'day folks, Alex McKellar here again for another everyday track guide. I've decided to call these everyday track guides because I see myself as just an everyday iRacing driver. I'm not a pro driver, I'm not a driving instructor, so take of these what you will. They are the way I try to get around the track as quick as I can, and hopefully they help some folks out there because that's the plan. So today we're at Mid-Ohio, the full layout this season. It's season 10 of Aussie Car, of course, for round 2 this time. And from memory, this is round 8, or the track for round 8 of the official season as well. So set up here again, same as it was at Lime Rock Park. So we've got spring perch offset, SPO, set at 3, just to lift the front of the car up just a fraction. There's no big curves or anything here too much that'll threaten your wing, but certainly it's about where I typically set as a neutral position for me, or a default position. Tyre pressures are at minimum, anti-roll bars at 8, and my brake bias is once again at that sweet spot of about 55%. Seems to get the balance right between not locking up the fronts, a little bit of rotation without being a little bit too sketchy under brakes. So the stint today, the track temperature, I used iRacing defaults, it's around 46 degrees, so once again pretty warm. Lap time itself was a 1:35.9. So my best time here ever was about half a second quicker than that, maybe 6/10 at best. For all I know, that had draft and was probably in better track conditions. So certainly I would expect us to be in the 35s during the race with draft under the right conditions. But once again, I did a full feature length race stint. Feature race length stint, I should say. The feature race for us, of course, is about a 30-minute race, which starts us with 7.9 litres, which is the first stint for me, pit stop, and then a run to the finish. So the fastest lap for me was lap 10. Why don't we dive into it? Just change our camera angle. We'll watch it. With telemetry from the cockpit first, and then we'll start breaking it down. And that's the lap. So why don't we go back to have a look at how we attack this lap. So of course, after setting up the final corner, which we'll talk about at the end of the lap, we're out on the start finish straight of what is pretty challenging layout, to be honest. there's not a lot of passing opportunities here, particularly with the way the draft works in the skips at the moment. It's quite an undulating circuit, typical of some of these US circuits that we travel to. A lot of elevation changes, and they add to the character and some of the unique natures or features of the track. So, as we pass or approach turn one, a few things we're looking for here. So it's like any corner, you're looking for you're looking to be out to the far outside of the track, as you can see here. You're looking for a turn-in reference, trying to spot your apex, and then ultimately find your track out. So, what I'm looking for here in this corner is in between the 2 and the 100 boards is my turn-in reference, and I say reference because for me there's a few corners here and at a number of tracks where it's not a turning marker, which is like a specific point in my mind. It's a turning reference, so it's about that point, give or take, depending on the track conditions, where your tyres are at in the stint and that sort of thing. And, you know, you'll get a feel for that as you're driving around. So for me, my turn-in reference here is just before or in and around the 100 marker. It's probably just a fraction before. So as we approach that 100 board on the right there, you're starting, once you've spotted where you think you're going to turn in, then your eyes turn to your apex. Now, this is a challenging little one because typically you'd be looking at that spot up at the left there where the grass is for every other track, I guess, or a lot of other tracks or corners. Here, of course, as you know, it's also the pit exit. So the white line on the left that you can see there marks the blend line, and that actually extends through the corner. Which means that the track or the racing circuit proper is on the right hand side of that, and there's, as you'll probably be aware, a curbing in the center of the track which really marks the apex. So you're it's a blind apex from that perspective. You can't quite see it on turn in, but your eyes are up. So it's a little bit by feel. Spot your turn in marker, or your turn in reference I should say, and then start putting your heads up towards that apex. Now, I stay in fourth once the tyres are up, well, pretty much from the get-go, to be honest, and we're rotating through, little stab on the brakes just to rotate the car, just before the 100 board, as you see there, and then I carry a little bit of trailing throttle, just momentarily lift to get that little bit extra rotation, and I'm aiming to hit that curbing in the centre of the track, just briefly, because it unsettles the car a little bit. And then I've got that, similar to what I did at Lime Rock Park, just that little bit of throttle trailing to keep the car settled as it hits the curb. And then as soon as you're on the curb and the car starts to settle, I'm looking to get back onto full throttle. So carrying a bit more speed here and looking to maximise the exit speed again, because you've got a decent long straight afterwards. Then we're just tracking out, as you can see, and you're looking to track out all the way to the right hand side. This is about as far as I'm comfortable going. You can kiss the grass a little bit on exit of turn one here, but realistically, I find that you lose a bit of traction. There's a 1x there. The traction costs you a little bit of speed up this straight into turn two at the keyhole, which is a legitimate passing opportunity as well. So as soon as we're done with turn one, we're up the straight here into turn two, also known as the keyhole. And what we're looking to spot here again is our turn-in reference, apex, and track out. So we're looking here, braking and turn-in reference is about the 200 board for me. And this is quite a long corner. It's almost you can potentially treat it as a double apex, but likely for me it's just a long corner. Now, it's really important when you're braking to get braking correctly done. You want to brake in a straight line. However, to open up the corner, you're all the way on the left here. It's a long corner, so if you were to brake in a straight line parallel to the circuit, you're going to be spending a long time before you can turn. So what I try to do here, once I get to my braking reference on the left there at the 200, is turn the car. You can just see that little input on the wheel, turn to the right, and then brake. So, but when I'm braking, my steering wheel's in a straight line. But what you can see, even though my steering wheel's in a straight line, during the relatively heavy braking zone, you can see there probably, what's that, 70% braking. Whilst my wheel is in a straight line, my car, because of that initial input, is heading towards the inside of the corner. You can see it moving away from the outside of the circuit. And then as I start to taper off and trail the brake, you add a little bit more steering input to bring you towards the apex of the corner. I come down into second gear here. And I carry second gear. Now, first gear is okay, no problems, particularly early in the stint. But for me, particularly when you're solo lapping, I'm looking to maintain that speed, mid-corner speed, as much as I can. And you can see it's quite a long period without input once you get to that corner, that turning phase in the center of the corner. So again, just to review, as you're coming up to that 200 board, little kink to point the car a little bit towards the center of the track. The braking though, heavy braking, is still with the wheel straight, but the car is, because you've pointed the car a little bit towards the center, the car's moving away from the outside of the track towards the corner. And then once you've finished your braking, you're on the tighter line through the corner there, and you're looking to spot from there your track out point. So eyes up ahead of you. And for me, I'm looking to get on the gas around, you can see the change in the asphalt here. Now, you've got to remember, this corner is really, really important. It's the most important corner on the circuit, because it's an overtaking opportunity on the entry, but perhaps more importantly, on exit, you've got the longest straight and what is probably the most frequently used passing opportunity at the end of it at turn 4. So one thing to consider again through here is that you might come under attack, and you should practice multiple lines into this corner as well. It's not uncommon to defend on the inside, and as an attacker you'll be on the outside, and you can legitimately do the over-under here on this corner. Stay wider and come underneath on the exit of the corner. You've got a long straight, and the combination of the draft out of the corner and then the side draft down the back straight there is a good opportunity to find an overtake at turn 4. So again, practicing multiple lines there is a useful thing. But as I was saying, I'm looking to get on full gas around the change in the asphalt there. However, I say that with a cautionary note. That's not where you want your eyes to be. While you're getting accustomed to the track, you might look to spot that. But when you get a better feel for it, you shouldn't be looking at that point in the track. You should be looking up and trying to spot your track out spot. So you can see back to full gas around there, and then moving towards the outside of the corner. Now, I was probably a fraction late on the gas there, so I haven't tracked out as far as you possibly could there, which means I was a little bit under speed and not the best exit from turn 2. So as we head up the big back straight, we're gradually making our way over to the right hand just to shorten the track distance, which is important in these cars, and then we're drifting out to the left, the outside of the approach to turn 4. So again, turn 4, interesting corner. So again, you want to be practicing or thinking about multiple lines here, because this is probably the primary passing, overtaking or passing opportunity on the track. You might practice defending the inside line. You might practice defending from the outside line, because the way the draft works here these days, tough to get it done, often by this point in the circuit even. And you could be battling side by side all the way through, probably to the exit at turn 6, a couple down the road. If you're on your own though, however, what I'm trying to do is I'm spotting my braking and turn-in reference, which is about the 300 board. And then it's a downhill braking zone, so probably better to think about braking earlier so that you're not pushing too much weight on the front and locking up the fronts. So again, braking in a straight line, and as I start coming off the brakes is when I start turning. Okay, so I go down to third gear for this corner once the tyres are up. I'm aiming to ride a fair bit of that inside curb. So again, that's where that SPO3 comes in. You might even think about lowering it, but I think 3 is probably enough. You're certainly not going to do any damage. Now, my run through here was less than ideal. I turned in a fraction early. And I didn't rotate the car enough because of that. Because I turned in early, you can see I make an adjustment. I turn in, and I actually had to open the wheel a fraction because I didn't get the rotation enough, and then really tried to get the line. So what that also meant was that I spewed out to the far left. Now, we talked about compromising corners through the lime rock S's last week, but this one I'm probably not too fussed entirely, because it's useful to practice the inside line on turn 5 as well. But ideally, I'd probably have turned in a fraction later, still hit the curb at about this point, but my car would have been rotated more, and I'd be less inclined to drift out to the far left of this corner and have the opportunity to move a little bit further right to open up turn 5, open up the entry to turn 5. Having said that, in an overtaking opportunity, there's nothing to say that I'm going to be a couple of car widths further to the left on entry and exit whilst trying to attack or defend. So it's, ideally maybe 1.5 to 2 car widths to the right here to open up the next corner, but it doesn't really cost me too much in terms of practice here, because I'm able to hold that inside line. I take this cresting turn 5 in second gear, which is pretty reasonable. As you can see, it's not dissimilar to the uphill at Lime Rock Park, where you have to be careful around the suspension unloading. However, it's not as dramatic here, and it's okay to keep full throttle and steering input over it. You might just have to think about opening the wheel up a bit when you crest the hill. So running through turn 5, I'm looking to get on the gas before I crest the hill to keep my run going from here. And you can see just before we crest the hill, full throttle, fair bit of steering input still. You might see me just opening the wheel a fraction as we crest, as I say, just to keep the car's momentum in check, because all the momentum of the car at that point, as the suspension grips up again or compresses again, is going to push the car out to the right. You just want to counter steer a fraction and then get it back over to the left. Now, moving on to turn 6. If you're in the heat of a battle, there's every chance that you are still 2x2 through turn 5. And if you're on the outside here, if you haven't got it done through turn 5, you're probably out of luck. If the guy's still beside you when you hit turn 6 and he's got the inside run, it's probably time to start thinking about how you're going to get that spot back next time. So typically, while you're hitting turn 6 here through the S's, you are probably, all the overtaking's probably getting itself sorted out. So we're going to move right over to the outside of the track on the approach to turn 6. There's no clear turn-in reference here. It's really heads up, looking at that apex on the right. I come down in here and just have a very small, you can see very small touch on the brakes there. It's maybe 5%, just to rotate the car. Eyes fully up the track at the apex. Second gear only, and what I'm looking to do is take as much of that apex as I can and get on the gas very early. So you can see before we've hit the apex curbing, we're fully committed on the throttle. With the middle of the car, you can see the little notch in the front of the car there pointing at about the center of the apex curbing. Now, you're able to do that here because whilst it seems like you're going to push very far to the left on exit here, and thinking back to Lime Rock Park where you want to compromise the first to maybe get a better run through the second corner of the S's here, it's not that big of a deal, because in this case, You can push even under full throttle there. Like that was an early application of throttle, relatively speaking, pretty early there. You're still only going to push to about 2/3 track. And that's certainly enough to maintain full throttle, not scrub too much speed, and be ready to attack the next apex at turn 7, which is right in the middle of the S's here. What we're trying to do here is you're essentially immediately straightening the car and setting up for turn 7 here. What we're aiming for here is to hit that apex on the left there as much as we can. We don't lift at all. This is a fairly good margin or a good line in my view. You want to get the center of the car once again right across the middle of that curbing. The one little gotcha here is that little patch of grass that's in between the end of the yellow curbing and the service road there. There is absolutely a little sneaky 1x there. So the challenge is here to get the line right such that you really use as much of the curb as possible, but you're able to let the car drift out and not take a lot of the grass in that little section there, because it will absolutely spoil your lap and you'll get a 1x. So managed to do that this time round, which was good. So then we're going to head through turn 8. It's all flat in third gear here. And then not too worried about kissing the apex curb here. We're really focusing on the corner up ahead at turn 9, which is one of the most challenging corners around, I reckon, not just at this track. When you combine the speed that you want to carry, the elevation change, and the blind nature of the corner, it's a lot of fun when you get it right, but there's a lot of things to be thinking about. So at this point of the track, I'm looking to spot the apex curbing on the left-hand side as my turn-in reference, and then from there my eyes will shift to the apex on the right-hand side of the track. Now, in my mind's eye in this corner, what I'm trying to visualize the car doing, and actually in actual fact get the car to do, is shift all the way to the left-hand side of the car, and in particular to the left-hand rear tyre is my goal here. So as we approach the corner, you can see as we've come out of turn 8 into turn 9 now, you can see I've already letting the car drift, but I've already got a little bit of right-hand input. What I'm looking to do here is just before that curbing, come off the gas, apply a fraction of brake. What's that, about 15%? Just to rotate the car. And again, in my mind's eye, what I'm trying to do is shift the car and the weight of the car onto the rear left tyre, and actually I'm picturing me putting the rear left tyre onto that yellow curbing, all right, on the outside of the circuit. I've already at this point committed and spotted my apex, right? So it's really important, again, have your eyes up track. So I've tried to shift all the weight to the outside onto that rear left tyre, which I'm planning to put it on that exit curb behind me. Then the line I'm trying to take here is, again, the center of the car, right as far to the right of that apex curbing as you dare. You can see there's plenty of grass on the outside. No change in gear, so it's all in third gear. And again, you can see I've committed to full throttle before the apex, right? Just as we're approaching the apex. Really important to maintain momentum in this car and through this section in particular. So then once we've nailed the apex with a little bit of lift there, unfortunately, just to get a bit of stability through as we crest the hill again, you can see, open the wheel up a bit, and we're all the way over to the left on exit. Now, that's about as much as you want to take on the exit. I've got a little bit of the grass there, but I find that doesn't affect the stability of the car at all, and certainly you don't lose traction and acceleration out of the corner either, so which is really good. So we've just been through Thunder Valley, and we're approaching the closing sector of the track now as we come in through turn 10 into turn 11. So turn 11, leading into the turn 12 carousel. What's a US track without a carousel, right? Anyway, so what I'm looking to do here again is spot my turn-in reference, which is about the 200. A short stab of the brakes as I look up to spot my apex on the left. So as we come into the 200, you can see very small stab on the brakes, and all I'm looking to do is rotate the car. I stay in fourth gear here. Third gear is absolutely acceptable, particularly as your tyres are coming up to temps. But I'm towards the end of a stint here. The tyres are well and truly up, and all I'm looking to do is carry heaps of speed and hit that apex on the left. So it's quite an early turn in. I see a lot of folks wait until sort of closer to that grass on the right, but for me, because I'm trying to carry the speed, I take an early stab on the brakes and a turn in, let the rear of the car loose a little bit, and then again full gas. It's only a short straight, so I'm not looking to get on the gas necessarily before the apex so much as I am looking to carry corner speed. So you can see that's why there's a little bit of stabilizing throttle, and then once the car's settled, full gas again, drift out. And in fact, you know, you can drift out a little bit further, but I think that's about right given the line that I've taken through there. Now we're coming into the final corner. At final corners at turn 12 and 13, the carousel. I'm staying in fourth and then coming down 2 gears on a tight entry line here. I'm going to open up the wheel a little bit in the braking zone to keep the car, see how my wheel's straight, and that's while I'm applying the braking. Blip to come down 2 gears into second and allow the car to drift out to open up turn 12. I stay in second gear. Okay, and again, I'm looking to find spot my apex, which is just up ahead here on the right, before again committing to full throttle before we hit that apex. Now again, first gear is perfectly acceptable here. I just use second once the tyres are warmed up in particular. If you're in a long string of cars, you'll probably find, or a battle, you're probably going to find yourself using first gear. All right, so think about 2 apexes. I'm narrow on this first apex here. Let the car drift out before attacking the second apex at full throttle, right? So the idea is, because you're full throttle from here to turn 1. And turn 1 is actually a passing opportunity as well. So think about that in your practice as well. All right, so we're going to grab early on the gas, and then it's full throttle. Don't have to compromise the exit too much. You're only sort of coming out to about mid-track and straight over to the left to grab the final apex and through to the end of the lap. As I said, that one was a 1:35.9. Which is, I was pretty happy with, if I'm honest, and hopefully I can get a few more 135s. As you can see, towards the end of the stint, sort of stabilising at low 36s typically. So happy with a 35.9, given my best ever is around a 35.3, I think, from memory. But you know, that's the way she goes. All right, folks, that might do us for now. Good luck in your racing this week. I hope that it has helped in some small way. And again, I state, not an expert, not a driving instructor, just hopefully I can help some people along the way. But until next time, folks, enjoy your racing, and ciao for now.